The morning sun filtered through the oak trees, casting dancing shadows across the weathered farmhouse. Sarah stepped out of her rental car and breathed in the familiar scent of honeysuckle and fresh hay. It had been 3 years since she'd last visited Grandpa Joe's farm, and guilt twisted in her stomach as she noticed how much the paint had faded on the old white siding. "Sarah." Joe's voice boomed from the covered porch, his flannel shirt catching the breeze as he walked down the wooden steps. Despite being 72, he still moved with the steady gait of a man who'd worked the land his entire life. "Hi, Grandpa." Sarah hugged him tightly, noticing the new lines around his kind eyes. "I'm sorry it's been so long. City life keeping you busy, I suppose," Joe said with a gentle smile, though she caught the hint of loneliness in his voice. "Come on, let me show you what I've been up to." As they walked across the yard, Sarah's attention was immediately drawn to the old blue pickup truck sitting beside the barn. She remembered playing in its cab as a child, pretending to drive to far-off places while Joe worked on the engine. Now it sat silent, its once bright blue paint faded and streaked with rust, weeds growing up around the tires. "The old Ford's still here," she said, running her hand along the dented fender. Joe's expression softened. 1953 F100. "Your grandmother and I bought her brand new." He patted the hood affectionately. "She's been sitting here for about 5 years now. Engine finally gave out, and I couldn't bring myself to have her hauled away." Sarah noticed the way his voice caught slightly. "Tell me about her, Grandpa. I mean, really tell me. I know she was special to you." Joe leaned against the truck's side, his weathered hands tracing the familiar curves. "Special doesn't begin to cover it, sweetheart. This truck brought your grandmother home from the hospital when you were born. She drove it to every church social, every county fair, every family gathering for 30 years. He opened the creaky driver's door and gestured inside. "See that tear in the seat? That's from when your dad was learning to drive and got so nervous he grabbed onto it too hard." Joe chuckled. "And that dent in the dashboard? Your grandmother did that with her purse when a deer ran across the road back in '78. Sarah climbed into the passenger seat, inhaling the scent of old leather and motor oil. Memories flooded back. Sitting next to Grandma Rose, singing along to the radio as they drove to town for ice cream, watching the countryside roll by through these same windows. "She taught me everything in this truck," Joe continued, his voice growing distant. "How to parallel park, how to change a tire, how to drive with confidence. Said a woman needed to be independent, especially out here in the country. I remember her teaching me to drive a stick shift in this truck," Sarah said softly. "I was terrified I'd roll backward down the hill. She was patient with you, just like she was with everyone." Joe's eyes misted over. "The day she passed, I came out here and just sat in this truck for hours. Felt closer to her somehow." Sarah watched her grandfather's face, seeing the deep love and loss etched in every line. "Grandpa, what if we fixed her up?" Joe looked at her with surprise. "Fix her up?" "Sarah, honey, that'd take months of work and thousands of dollars. The engine alone." "I know," Sarah interrupted, surprising herself with her determination. "But I've been thinking. I've been so focused on my career in Chicago that I've forgotten what really matters. Maybe it's time I came home for a while." "You'd do that? Leave your job?" "I can work remotely for a few months. My boss has been wanting me to take a sabbatical anyway." Sarah gripped the old steering wheel. "Besides, I think Grandma would want her truck running again. And I think I need to learn how to fix something instead of always looking for the next big opportunity." Joe was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the red barn where he'd spent countless hours tinkering with engines. "It won't be easy work. The best things never are," Sarah replied, echoing something Rose used to say. A slow smile spread across Joe's face. "Well then, I suppose we better get started. First thing we'll need to do is pull that engine and see what we're working with." Over the next hour, they walked around the truck, Joe pointing out various issues while Sarah took notes on her phone. Rust spots, worn tires, a radiator that would need replacing, seats that needed reupholstering. The list was long, but with each problem Joe identified, Sarah felt more excited rather than discouraged. "You know," Joe said as they stood back to survey their project, "your grandmother always said this truck had at least one more adventure left in her." What kind of adventure did she have in mind? Joe grinned, looking more animated than Sarah had seen him in years. She wanted to drive Route 66. Said we'd do it for our 50th anniversary, just the two of us in the open road. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. Then that's what we'll do. Once we get her running, you and I will take that trip. We'll take Grandma with us in spirit. You really mean it? I mean it, Grandpa. But first, we've got a lot of work to do. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, grandfather and granddaughter began making plans. They'd start with the engine, then move on to the body work. Joe knew a man in town who specialized in classic Ford parts, and Sarah could research restoration techniques online. It would be a learning experience for both of them. One more thing, Joe said as they headed toward the farmhouse for lunch. Your grandmother left something for you in the truck. I've been waiting for the right moment to show you. He opened the glove compartment and pulled out a small, leather-bound journal. She wrote in this during all our drives together. Stories, observations, little sketches of places we'd been. She wanted you to have it someday. Sarah opened the journal carefully, seeing her grandmother's familiar handwriting on the first page. For Sarah, my adventurous granddaughter. May you always remember that the journey is more important than the destination. Love, Grandma Rose. Standing there in the shade of the old oak trees, with the blue truck waiting patiently for its resurrection and her grandfather's arm around her shoulders, Sarah knew she was exactly where she needed to be. The city could wait. Her real life was just beginning, one rusty bolt at a time. The afternoon breeze rustled through the trees, carrying the promise of new beginnings and old memories restored. And somewhere in the distance, the red barn seemed to stand a little taller, as if it too was looking forward to the sounds of a running engine once again.